Well, hello and welcome into another edition of the Great 8 Rankings. Nolan Knight here with Madeline Frentress. Madeline, the playoffs are here. The wait is over. It's been a long season. We have coats on now.
I know.
You know, just think back to August, how different things were, and here we are. It's our final. Or I don't want to say final, but our only rankings of the playoffs. We'll rank them this week, and then at the end of the season, we'll come back and do a final ranking and kind of see maybe how that compared to our preseason rankings. But postseason's here.
It's getting real. I literally just yesterday, it feels like I was covering week 1 game of the week, St. Chris at Huguenot, and being like, just blown away by that game. Like, this is going to be an awesome season. So
yeah, absolutely. Kind of want to start maybe this week with looking at some of the action from last week. For most teams, the playoff spots were kind of decided, but there were seeding type matchups that were on the line in our matchups from last week. I mean, you think back to some of these games that we had last week with a lot on the line. One that comes to mind, obviously, that big game that took place at LC Bird. Freeman managed to get into the playoffs, as did Glen Allen. Glen Allen snuck in at 5-5 after that loss. We thought maybe they had to win to get in. They were able to sneak in. Louisa County finished their season undefeated. Highland Springs had one of the best games of the year against Hanover, sneaking out a win over the Hawks. And I think the other big matchup that kind of had that playoff season, James River, LC Bird. Bird able to secure some playoff seedings with that matchup. Another good storyline from last week, John Marshall was able to play a game after they had to forfeit their last 3 due to not having enough eligible players, but they were able to have that senior night, which I'm sure was so special. But then our game of the week, 27-7 Huguenot over Manchester. I think that took us by surprise a little bit. We had them as our number 2 ranked team. Huguenot had 1 loss. Manchester had none. I mean, it was a perfect matchup for a play of the week.
Yeah, I just think,
game of the week.
I asked both coaches in my, off the record, of course, in my interviews, do you think it's going to be high scoring or low scoring? Because both those teams, like we were talking about beforehand, maybe we were proved wrong that, we thought those teams were very similar going in, super high powered offenses and defenses to match. And obviously, it was more on the lower scoring end of it, but Huguenot just, I didn't expect, necessarily one or the other to win by that much, if that makes sense. I didn't expect it to be that.
I think we said on the show we thought it was going to be low scoring, like it was going to surprise everybody.
I thought it was going to be lower scoring, and I thought it was going to be a lot closer. But Huguenot, Charles Scott said it after the game, we're not the same. So, maybe it was a call out, maybe it wasn't, but I love this for the Falcons. They've really grown every week since week 1.
Yeah, obviously we were out there for the matchup. We had our Blitz reporter Jamal Williams on the scene. Here's the recap from the Week 11 game of the week.
Tonight's final game of the week featured a battle of the Dominion District as the number 2 Manchester Lancers came in and took on the Huguenot Falcons. But who would come out on top? Let's find out. It's the highly anticipated matchup, the Manchester Lancers facing off against the Huguenot Falcons. To the second quarter we go as Huguenot would score on 3 drives. The first from a handoff to Randall Robinson for the touchdown. The second from Cartier Canati on a 43-yard run to the house. And a 20-yard pass from quarterback Charles Scott to Montre Thompson for the third. Falcons up big 21-0 at the half. Second half, Huguenot picks up right where they left off. Late in the third, it's Scott to Lewis for a 20-yard touchdown pass. Falcons all over the Lancers, 27-0. Late in the fourth, Manchester finally gets points on the board with a 21-yard touchdown pass to wide receiver Antonio Turner, but it wouldn't be enough as the Falcons go on to win this one 27-7 in dominating fashion. Here's head coach Charles Scott on the statement his squad made tonight.
I feel like we got the best defense in the state. I feel like they took another step tonight in proving that. And my guys took a lot of stuff personal this week. Everybody was saying we was the same, and we are not the same. And that's what we wanted to prove tonight, that we are not the same.
Well, that does it here, folks, as the Falcons dominated the Lancers from start to finish, finishing this off with a final score of 27-7 with huge momentum going into the playoffs next week. As always, I'm Jamal Williams signing off for you for 8 Sports Blitz. See you guys next time.
All right, great job there from Jamal. Great game. I think the best part of it is going into the night, we were all saying how jealous we were that we weren't the ones getting
I know,
to
Jamal
cover that
got a
matchup.
treat.
Yeah. Ended up being a 20-point win for Huguenot, and that game absolutely affected our rankings this week. As I mentioned earlier before we reveal them, this is our playoff rankings. It'll stay these rankings throughout the playoffs, and then we'll come back into the playoff season to kind of re-rank things and kind of recap the playoff season. But so excited for the next few weeks. Let's take a look at the rankings. Madeline, you take us through it here. Not much of a change at number 1.
Yeah, not a whole lot of movement at the first spot, which is our Dinwiddie Generals. They're 10-0. They had a bye week, I think. Was it last week or the week before?
They went 10 straight weeks of football and then had a bye week before the playoffs.
It's not easy to do.
I'm sure that was a grind, but now they have that extra week to get healthy and prepare for the postseason.
Yeah, and I mean, since they didn't play last week, I think it's only fair that we keep them at their spot at number 1.
Yep, they're at 10-0. They did claim the 1 seed in the Class 4 region, and for week 1, they'll take on 8 seed Hanover, who's had a really good season and has seen their name kind of bounce up and down off our honorable mention list all year.
Yeah, that'll be a great matchup there. And then at number 2, we have the Varina Blue Devils at 8-2. Last week they were at spot 3, and they have moved up with their win over. It was Hanover, correct?
Patrick Henry last week took care of business. Kind of a tune-up game for them.
Yeah.
With the win, they did claim the 4th seed. The fact that they were 8-2 and they barely got home field advantage, kind of crazy. But when you suffer 2 losses, it kind of messes with your points, and that was the situation. So they're the 4th seed. They'll be hosting Cortland this Friday night in the first round of the playoffs. Obviously, if they win that matchup and then Dinwiddie wins, I mean, we're talking Dinwiddie Varina week playoff round 2.
Wow.
Like, it's going to be so exciting. I'm expecting both of those teams to win, and man, do we got a good one coming next week when our number 1 and number 2 team face off.
Yeah, that's gonna be a really good game right
Oh, yeah.
there. But at number 3, we have the Huguenot Falcons. Obviously, we just talked about them. They really proved themselves over Manchester last week. Just like we said, not necessarily a close win like we thought it was going to be, or close game at all. So they jump up from spot number 6 to spot number 3.
Yeah, you kind of think if they would have, maybe started the season a little better with the win over St. Chris, it's very likely they could have been our number 1 team all year. But that first week 1 win kind of always, had this little blip on their resume, and they finally can get some revenge. I don't know if that's the right word, but some payback from that week 1 loss, getting a huge win going into the postseason. They're the 3 seed in that same region with Dinwiddie, Varina, Huguenot. Talk about a stacked region.
Absolutely
This
stacked.
is the 1 seed, the 4 seed, and the 3 seed.
Wow.
And Huguenot will be hosting Spotsylvania on Friday night. They're that 3 seed in Region 4B.
Yeah, that'll be a good game as well, but expecting obviously the Falcons to just keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, what a momentum boost, like Jamal was saying in his story, what a momentum boost going into the playoffs with that kind of a win. But that brings us to spot number 4, which is the Trinity Titans. They are staying at spot number 4.
Yeah, they are the 1 seed in the VISAA playoffs. Last week, they beat Norfolk Academy on Saturday to clinch their spot in the state championship. They'll be taking on the next team on our list, Benedictine, on Saturday at home. We've seen this matchup already before. Benedictine versus Trinity at Trinity. Trinity came away with the last-second win. That is now the exact same matchup for the VISAA Division I State Championship Saturday at noon. A lot of excitement, a lot of hype around that game. It'll be interesting to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, it'll be huge, especially because they've already played before. I know some of these teams, since they're in the same region, have played each other, but Trinity, Benedictine, because it was so close the first time, I mean, it's like, what do you expect for the second time around in the playoffs? But, of course, that brings us to number 5, which is Benedictine. We talked about them. They're staying at number 5. And then at number 6, we have the Armstrong Wildcats, who finished their season 10-0, first time in school history.
Yeah, they have just been so impressive. They've won every game they've played this year. Obviously, they're 10-0. They finished the season with a big win on the road at Mechanicsville last week. And you might notice that they're ahead of some Class 6 schools. Thomas Dale's Class 6, Manchester's Class 6, Highland Springs easily. If we had a higher ranking system, they'd probably be in it as well. I think the best example is Armstrong hosted Hanover 2 weeks ago, and what I thought, they'll probably lose their first game. They beat Hanover in that game by 29 points.
Yeah. I mean, and Hanover is
Hanover's a great
good
team, a team that went wire to wire with Highland Springs. Armstrong beat them by 29. Highland Springs only beat them by 3. And as we all know, Highland Springs is such a juggernaut in the region. That matchup between Hanover and Highland Springs last week is kind of the biggest movement on our rankings board here, right? Because Highland Springs was on it, but we kind of had to move them down because, they kind of struggled against a Hanover team that's not ranked, whereas Armstrong dominated Hanover. So it's
and they're Class 2.
Yeah, really want to tip our hats off. They're a Class 2 school. They're incredible. Can't wait to see what they can do in the postseason. They got a tough matchup. In an 8 seed in Nottoway. They got a running back that's going to William and Mary. I mean, he's a great tailback. He'll be coming over to Armstrong High School. Armstrong, they're the 1 seed in Class 2A and got a pretty tough matchup against Nottoway coming up on Friday night.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if the Wildcats can kind of keep their I mean, what better momentum than an undefeated 10-0 season?
Really.
So, and they move up from spot number 8 last week. And then at number 7, we have the Thomasdale Knights, who finished their season 9-1. Last week they were an honorable mention, but they've been kind of in and out of our rankings all year. Yeah,
absolutely. We have 2 Class 6 schools on our list. Both of them are in the playoffs and the higher seeds in the playoffs. Thomasdale's a 2 seed. That means they got a bye this week. They have the week off, and deservingly so. Their one loss was to Dinwiddie, and it was a close game, 21. I think it was 28-14, or I think it was a 10-point, maybe 24-14. It was a close game. It was the only close game Dinwiddie's played all year.
Besides Highland Springs.
Yeah, that's a good point. But Thomasdale, their one loss is to our number 1 team. They're the 2 seed in the Class 6 region, have a bye this week. I think deservingly have come back onto the grade 8 lists.
Yeah, I think they have to be there. I mean, they went toe-to-toe with some of the better teams in the region. So I think they definitely deserve
Struggled
a spot.
a little bit on Friday against Hopewell, but that was also a game where it's like they've already clinched their playoff spot. Like it's a little different situation for Thomasdale. And it was on a Saturday thing. It was kind of a weird game for them.
Yeah, but I expect them to bounce back in the first week of the playoffs for sure. But that brings us to number 7, the Manchester Lancers, who obviously last week were at number 2, and we had to move them down quite a bit because of the loss to Huguenot.
Yeah, lost to Huguenot and a loss by 20 to the Falcons, who we all think is a really good team. But they did get the 3 seed in a Class 6A. I think that loss is the reason they don't get a bye in the week 1 of the playoffs. It was a pretty substantial loss. And now they take on Lancetown on Friday night at home. Obviously, if they win that game, we're looking at a number 8 versus number 7 matchup in the round 2 of the playoffs. So that's a really exciting game to look forward to as well. If they can take down Lancetown, I'm expecting them to be able to do that. But
the Lancers taking down Lancetown.
Yeah, 757 team have to making the long trip to Richmond. That Class 6 is always so weird to kind of just keep talking about it. Oscar Smith, I know you're not from the area where I grow up from. Is the same region Oscar Smith is. They would beat us by 1,000 every year. Highland Springs, kind of the juggernaut of the 757, or rather the 804. Oscar Smith, the juggernaut of the 757, and so they're the 1 seed in that matchup. 2 seed goes to I'm drawing a blank here. Thomasdale. Manchester gets the 3 seed in that region as well, and it'll be interesting to see who comes out of that alive.
Yeah, very interesting. And then as far as our honorable mentions, we have Essex in there still.
Yep, Essex went undefeated. I wanted to put an Essex/Lunenburg to kind of give the Chargers some love as well. I didn't have any room on the graphic.
Far.
So we got a Class 1 school in Essex that went undefeated, and then a Class 2 school in Lunenburg Central who went undefeated. We're going to give them some love, put them on the honorable mention list. Lunenburg Central just no room for you on the list, and Essex was on it last year.
It's not a whole lot of space down there.
Hermitage is on there as well. They are a part of our game of the week this week as they take on a Midlothian team in what should be an awesome Class 5 Region C matchup. We'll talk about that in a second. Highland Springs does move down to our honorable mention list just because of looking at the resumes between them and Armstrong. That's one team had to be in, one team had to be out. I think Armstrong deserved it. Louisa County 10-0 to start the season. They are the 2 seed in that Class 4B region. So look at the Class 4B is wild. It's Dinwiddie number 1. Louisa County number 2 in that region, Huguenot number 3, and then Varina number 4. So I mean, talk about some good football in the region they're on a crash course right now.
Wow.
And then St. Chris lost last week in the VISAA semifinals to Benedictine. So successful season for St. Chris, the only team on this list that their season has come to an end. Obviously, they were deeper in the playoffs already. But to talk about this week's playoff game of the week, you went out to check out both Hermitage and Midlothian today. What's kind of the vibe for that big Class 5 matchup?
Yeah, very excited between both of these coaches. We talked about it earlier before I left. Both of these teams haven't won a playoff game in 4 years. So none of the current players on any of the teams have won a playoff game. And both coaches kind of touched on it. Like, you know, a lot of these seniors that we have been like, they've been in the playoffs, but they've just had some first round exit type situations, both of the teams. And there's some seniors on the team that have, you know, maybe every year or however many times they've been in the playoffs had to go through those, you know, playoff first round exits. And so they kind of both coaches kind of conveyed that the whole team is kind of playing for, obviously because they want to go far in the playoffs and they want that, you know, for the team and to be successful, but especially because there are seniors on the team that, you know, have gone through it and haven't gotten over the hump. And so they're both going to be looking to, you know, do something that none of the players on the team have done before. But they're both really excited about the matchup. I think it's going to be a really, really good one. Midlothian obviously is leaning on their defense for most of the season, so I think it'll be a good defensive game. Hermitage has got a great defense as well. So it's going to be a really good one. Really, really good one.
Looking forward to it. You'll be out at the game with live interviews this upcoming Friday night, and then we'll have post-game sound from the winner because we're going to lose half of these teams just about this week. It's 37 area teams that have made the postseason that their quest for the state championships begins this Friday. We'll have full coverage for the start of all these journeys from Class 1 to Class 6. And then, of course, we'll have coverage from the VISAA state championship game on Saturday. So be sure to stay tuned in to the Blitz and, of course, Madeline shows over the weekend, overtime as well, as we look forward to wrapping up the high school football season somehow.
I'm so sad.
Yeah, we still got 5 weeks of play probably, but
I don't want it to
this
end.
is our last full week of where it's like a full slate of games. Really looking forward to the matchups this Friday, and we hope you join us on the Blitz this Friday. We'll end things here on the rankings as we always do with the Week 11 top lights. Good night, everybody. We will see you at the end of the season to recap our final 8 Sports Blitz Grade 8 rankings. Good night, guys.